So whenever you're ready, I'm ready on my end.
Okay, on the last Zoom call, my button did not work to turn off the sound. On this Zoom call, it's working because I didn't hear what you just said because I had my button down, but I think I got a general drift. So,
Okay. So the child advocate is here.
There she is. Okay, I couldn't see her.
Oh,
I see what she is. Okay,
that's Christine.
all right. All right, well, if you'd like to begin, ma'am, how are you today?
I'm well. Thank you for having us today. My name is Sarah Egan. I run the state's Office of the Child Advocate. And we had sent to, not sure what you have in front of you, but we had sent responses to the committee regarding the questions that had come up during our appropriations hearing. We had asked for a couple of different positions. I can just bring up if it's helpful to the committee. I don't know if I can share screen, but I can just walk through the answers that we provided.
Sure, I have it in front of me. That would be good. I think that'd be just, it's been easy for other hearings. Yeah.
Okay, so let me do that.
That's screen sharing, Sarah, so you should be all set.
Okay, let me do that then. Okay. Okay, so can folks see my screen now? Great. So this is actually, I've been the child advocate for 9 years. This is the first time I've actually asked for any new positions. So I'm doing this for the first time. So hopefully I've answered all of the questions all the things that you need from us. So we did ask, just in summary, we asked for a couple of new positions to assist the office with 2 statutory requirements that are a bit understaffed right now. One is facility investigation. We have a requirement under state law since 2016 to put out a report every 2 years on conditions of confinement for all individuals 15 to 21 and who are incarcerated throughout the state. And I'll walk through just how much that is. We have one full-time employee dedicated to that. And right now we have one temporary worker who's a very experienced person, recently retired from state service and is back as a temporary worker to assist with that. But I'm asking for a full-time position for that. It actually says here, and this is my error, and I can correct it with the committee, but that we're asking for 2 human services consultants. That should read 2 children's services consultants. So I apologize for that. The salary range is accurate though. And we have the total salary without fringe benefits for that. And as you can see, one is for fatality review and one is for facility review. So I can just walk through the next question from the committee, had to do with the formal list of all facilities that we currently check on. So this is the statutory obligation that I just referenced, prepare an in-depth report on conditions of confinement. We're due to report that this year regarding children 21 years of age and younger in any detention or correctional facility. So that's going to include the DOC and Connecticut Judicial Branch Court Support Services Division. So there are more than a dozen facilities that minor youth and youth 18 to 21 are confined in. And so we've been getting at that piecemeal over our last couple of reports, focusing on the detention facilities, York Correctional Institution and Manson Youth Institution. But to get at more of the facilities under this umbrella, we would need at least one more staff person, but I'm asking for one, and then we'll see, get as much done with that person as we can. But it is important to know, and I put this in here, that OCA has general mandates to periodically review the facilities of any institution where a juvenile has been placed by any agency or department. So we showed you that, just under DCF, there are dozens of programs, state licensed programs and facilities. There are also DDS facilities that may have children in them. Right now, when we do have a complaint about a facility, we will absolutely get there. But our capacity to do proactive review of conditions and other children's programs other than correctional ones is extremely limited right now because of that mandate that was put in 2016 to report out every 2 years on conditions of confinement. So we're asking for the one additional staff member for facility review, and we will produce as much as we possibly can with those positions. I'll pause there. Does anyone have any questions about about that position and the mandate associated with it?
Can I ask a question?
Hi, Representative Walker. Yes, of course.
So you're asking just for one position, one full-time position?
Well, we asked in total for two, one for fatality review, one for facility.
Okay, that was good. When you said anybody asking about, okay, so it's a total of two?
Total of two.
And the total amount, I'm sorry, hold on one second.
Christina, you have this number we actually was updated by our, this is the accurate range right here, but Christina, you're on too, right? I think you have an updated number.
I am. So that's the range. What our budget person has explained to us is there's a 2.5% cost of living adjustment that's coming. So if we were to hire in 2024, it's a little bit higher than that. It's the 2.5%, which we noted, but we didn't calculate out on this. I have those numbers. If you would like, I could share those with you verbally, or we could send them to you. But it's really just reflective of the 2.5% cost of living adjustment that's anticipated for 24 and then for 25.
Okay, if you could send that to Madam Administrator.
Yes.
So we could all have it. So
Absolutely.
What verbally, can you just tell me what the amount is? With the positions and the percentage, the increase, please?
So for the children's services consultant, the increase for 24 would be the 2.5% cost of living adjustment. And so the numbers that I have are at the low end of the range. This is an SH25 position. So at the low end of the range, it would change from $78,852 to $80,823 and some change. And then at the high end,
Hi, Christina.
yes.
Just tell me the amount. So it's 80,000 for one position.
80,823.30 is the low end of the position for the 2024 year with the 2.5% cost of living adjustment. Yes.
And that's the one, and you want another one. So that's 280,000, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I want to know. So it's about 161,000. Okay.
Right. Although Representative Walker, if they came in from an existing state position, they might come in and, as you know, late higher up in the range. Yeah.
Right.
So the two positions are 161,000. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. And was there something else that I saw in there too that you wanted?
So we also have, so the other position was for fatality review. And we were asked how many child fatalities are reviewed by the office in the last calendar year. And you can see the answer here: over 90 child fatalities, 300 critical incidents, all receive at least a preliminary review. And then decisions are made about whether an additional in-depth investigation can be done. We were asked about the criteria for those additional reviews. So we have two things that we have to do by statute. One is a general report regarding the causes and rates of child fatalities.
Okay, so you don't have to tell me what they have to do. Just tell me how much is the cost.
Oh, so it's the same cost. So it's this cost times 2.
So
So it's the 80,000. So it's 180. It's the one consultant for facility and the other for fatality.
So it's in there.
It's in there.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Thank you. You confused me. I thought you had another person.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted the bottom line.
Yeah, that's the bottom
Okay,
line.
thank you.
That's the bottom line. And so these are the other questions we were asked to answer. How many hours do we have devoted to inspecting facilities? As I said, we have one full-time position, and right now we have one temporary worker who works approximately 12 hours per week. How many additional hours would be necessary? All of this relates to the two positions that we've asked for, the additional one full-time position to help complete our work on conditions of confinement. Does anyone have any questions about the answers that we've provided?
I did have a question. I thought during the hearing, and maybe I'm just misunderstood something. I thought you said you had a caseload of 120 children who have died during the year. Did I misunderstand that, or was that a different situation?
No, we have, here, let me minimize over here. So we have, in the course of a year, there were so for last year, there were 90 child fatalities that came under the jurisdiction of the medical examiner. And that means they fall under our jurisdiction to review and our obligation to report out on. So that's the number. From some years, it's a little more than that. Some years, it's a little bit less. We're obligated under state law to review all of these child fatalities and critical incidents and report out. And we're also obligated to, where directed, to conduct an in-depth investigation on the death or critical incident of a particular child. And we have been directed several times by different committees of the legislature or by the Child Fatality Review Panel itself to conduct an in-depth fatality review related to a child or a cohort of children. And so we do that at the direction of government and or within available appropriations.
And that would bring the number above the 90. Is that what you're saying?
Well, in any given year, that number can change. Now, of course, I've minimized everybody and I can put you back. So that number can change, right? So last year it was 90. It's going to be whatever. We have jurisdiction and obligation to report out regarding any sudden and unexpected death of a child that comes under the jurisdiction of the medical examiner. So last year that was 90 children birthed to 17. Some years it's more.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions?
Representative, I had a question. I didn't know if you saw my hand or not.
No, I'm just trying to get to a view so I can see people's hands. Okay. Okay.
I can stop share too.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Egan, just a quick question. So I'm looking here at some of the questions that you provided to us, and you had no vacancies throughout the last fiscal year and no new hires. When was the last time that you all had new hires in the Office of Child Advocate?
Yeah, let me clarify that. We lost two folks to retirement.
Okay.
And then filled those positions. So we have no current vacancies. When is the last time we hired prior to that? We were given, when I have to think back, when I first came in, we had 5 folks, including me.
Okay.
And then the legislature gave us, we lost folks. We had 12, we went down to 5. And then the legislature gave us back a couple of positions, human services advocate, a staff attorney, and another assistant child advocate position. I can't remember, Representative, when that occurred. That was several years ago.
So 8 full-time employees has been the largest that you all have seen within your office.
Within my tenure here, yes.
Okay. And then I did notice that there was not an answer, because it varies by role, regarding the average cost of the full-time employee. But is there just a guesstimate that you could give us based on the 8 that you currently have in the office?
Yeah, so
I do think it's helpful to have those numbers. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a pain.
Sure, no, of course. The positions that we're looking for, the children's services consultant, and you have the range for that in the answer that we provided back. In our office, we have positions ranging from human services advocate, which is just a shade lower than that, to assistant child advocate. That is a shade higher than children's services consultant. And then there's the position of associate child advocate, and then the child advocate, which is me.
All right. All right, thank you. I'll reserve time for everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
Anyone else have questions? Well, I think that will be it. And like I said, if we do come up with any more questions, I think we know where to find you. But I should have known. It's almost over. Everybody's ready to go home, and Kathleen McCarthy has a question. What a surprise.
I have a comment and then a quick question, and I'm sorry. I know I'm only going to be on for a short time, Kevin, so I'll be back later, possibly. But I wanted to just recognize the tremendous work the Office of Child Care Advocate is doing. And with all the inspections that have to take place, I'm just wondering, and just going through some more of your answers, but in looking at inspection of all the various facilities, do you have enough employees to cover those inspections? And if just give you the opportunity to be able to comment.
Yes, thank you, Representative McCarty. It's a hard question. It's a hard question to answer. So as you know, the work that we do is complaint driven, right? It's not regulation driven. So we're not conducting routine inspections other than the audit visits that we do for conditions of confinement. So what we want to make sure is that we have enough staff resources to respond when complaints may arise, right? It's hard to project where that may occur, though we know from experience where our most vulnerable children are, right? Group homes, hospitals, residential treatment facilities, and correctional environments. And we are lean on that right now. I'm hoping, and I appreciate that everybody wants more staff, right? So I'm trying to keep our request lean as well by asking for one more person for fatality, one more person for facility. And we have a history of being able to get the job done with the resources that we have. So that's what we're going to continue to do. And if I think, if we get those positions and then I think we still are struggling to meet our mandate, I'll come back and certainly, next year and let the committee know that. But I think we've been able to produce a lot with the staff that we have. And which is why I don't typically come and ask for more staff. But I think with with those two mandates, we do need the additional positions. And one other thing I didn't talk about is that, about a year ago, the Department of Children and Families successfully exited from decades of class action driven federal court oversight. And for many, many years, the state of Connecticut has relied on that federal court monitor to produce regular QA reports on child welfare practice. So with the closing out of that consent decree, there really is not a framework yet to replace that QA of the child welfare system. And certainly while the state can expect the Department of Children and Families to produce that data on themselves, and I think that they should, we want to make sure that our office has that capacity to supplement that with our own review and report out to the legislature as well.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I know that you really do make the dollars stretch with what you do in your agency. So thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm all set, Kevin.
Thank you, Representative McCarthy. And is there anyone else that has a question? If not, again, we appreciate you being able to come here.
Okay, thank you.
If we have, like I said, if we have any other questions, I think we know where you are. We can get some more answers. Representative McCarthy, you do have another question? We're almost done. Okay.
No, I didn't have my hand up.
Thanks very much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Okay. I thought I saw it's Freedom of Information Commission is next.
Yes, I'm here.
You're ready to go. Okay. If you'd like to get started, please do.
Sure. I think I will be brief. Hi, everyone. Representative Ryan and members of the subcommittee. I'm Colleen Murphy, the Executive Director and General Counsel of the FOI Commission. And I, like Sarah Egan before me, I'll just maybe start by directing my remarks toward the questions that were asked after I presented to the full committee. And the first question was the number of complaints that were opened in 2022 at the commission. And the number came up as 604. And I will say that that's on average a little bit down from our higher numbers. We've seen numbers over the years upward to up to 900 and beyond. But I think in the pandemic, we did see a little bit of a slowdown in the actual filings, but the number 604 for the year 2022, and how many of those remain open? We resolved 450 of them. There are still 154 that remain open. Then the question was, what was the average time from an opening of a complaint to a conclusion? And I provided two ways of looking at that. The first one is to take out if you're considering each complaint filed and all complaints that were settled, mediated, withdrawn, along with all the complaints that were fully adjudicated, the average time is just 4 months. And that's because the adjudication process, if you go to full adjudication, it takes a longer amount of time, but we're often able to resolve things through mediation. So if you count all of that in, the time from start to finish is shorter. Whereas if you just look at complaints that don't get settled, don't get withdrawn, aren't otherwise removed from our docket, if you will, the average time took about 9 months from the time that one would file a complaint to our processing, to trying to go through that mediation process, and then ultimately to adjudication before the commission. That's 9 months. And as we always say, we typically have this 1 year statute of limitations that we have to, or jurisdictional mandate that requires us to hear everything and decide it within 1 year. So that's the maximum we could go, except for pandemic times when the governor, through an executive order, in order to save appeals from being lost, in order to save citizens from losing their cases during the pandemic, that 1 year time was suspended. So the next and last question was, what is the number of complaints that have been open for more than 1 year? And those would be the ones that are still lingering that we're trying to push through our system. The number is at 84, had been much higher even up until just a few months ago. But we have 84 complaints that would be pending from, they were either pending at the time or filed after March 2020 through June of 2021. So we've got these 2 tracks. We're trying to catch up on these old ones that don't have a timeline, if you will, but unfortunately they're old and really should be resolved, while simultaneously trying to make sure we don't miss the 1 year on the current cases that are filed and are subject to that limitation. I just wanted to also, this wasn't a question that came out of the hearing, but I believe it was asked at the appropriations about our staffing, and we have 16 full-time positions. 14 of them are filled. I think at the appropriations hearing, I misspoke and said there were 15 that were filled, and that's because I had forgotten that we had made an offer to somebody who accepted and then unfortunately declined just before coming to work. So we're back to 14 filled, and the other 2 are in the process of being filled. And the biggest reason why we had these openings is because of retirements. We had, I believe it's 5 out of our staff of 14 over the past year plus. And we're really trying to regroup and readjust after all of that. And the last thing I guess I would say before seeing if you all have any questions for me is that I've given a lot of thought to our budget. This year, we did not seek additional positions. We've been staggering, I think, as Ms. Egan said before, since 2011, we were cut from our highest level of positions, which was 23 at the time. And we went all the way down to, I think it was 13 when we were consolidated into the Office of Government Accountability. We lost a bunch of our positions, and we've been trying to kind of claw our way back a little bit since we then came out of the Office of Governmental Accountability and regained our independent status. And so during that time period, we were always trying to do more with less. And I'm sure those of you who have been around know that refrain. And, we're always very reticent to ask for additional funding, and we did not in this budget cycle. But through some of the questioning, and you may have seen some media articles lately about the commission, about some of the work that we're doing, I really thought it may be an appropriate time to just put it out there to you that we could really use another support person in our office to process those complaints, to get at that 9-month backlog, if you will. 9 months to hear and decide FOI cases is just too long. You're talking about information that has value, and timeliness is important. And I think if we could get to around 3 to 4 months for the full adjudication, we'd be in great shape. And I think a good start at that might be to look at getting another administrative assistant to help us process our complaints. So I'll put that out there for you. And the cost of that, I did ask our budget person, and the range for that is $60,703 to $78,533. And that's all I have for you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Senator Austin. I'm going to be leaving for a few minutes. Representative Walker is going to take over for me, but Senator Austin, you can ask your question.
Thank you. Again, how many, thank you very much for that, Colleen. And how many positions are you asking for? Is just one, or would it be appropriate to consider putting in not just a support person, but also an attorney that could do additional cases? Are you thinking that you can do it with just a support person?
Well, I sort of thought that the support person was the start, and that I had been thinking that we would see this year how we fare in filling our positions that we currently have. But I do think it's quite possible that another staff attorney would certainly help us. And I'm also looking at the possibility of some IT support, because we're in such a world where IT is so important to us, both substantively in deciding cases that involve electronic meetings, electronic access, and also just for ourselves to run our electronic processes. So that's what I'm looking at. I have been thinking about asking for that in year 2 potentially. And that's where we are right now.
Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the work that you do. I just want to make sure you're appropriately staffed, because we hear from different groups that are trying to get information and ultimately it gets adjudicated by you all. It would be nice if other people just gave the information that they were being asked for, but that's not happening. Although if they did that, you would not be necessary.
Absolutely.
But you are necessary, so I want to make sure you're appropriately staffed.
Thank you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that sentiment, because that isn't always the case. We've had some difficulty getting that staffing, and like I said, I think we've been shell shocked a little bit over these years. So to ask for anything feels really odd to me. But I think I've laid out where we are at this moment. But I really appreciate that, and certainly we would not reject another staff attorney. And as I said, I'll be looking into the IT piece as well.
Okay, I'd appreciate that information, and I'm looking to get you down so that you can decide a caseload. You can get a caseload that can be decided in a more reasonable time frame, and so that's what I'm looking for. And I appreciate you re-looking at what you were asking for. I'm still thinking you probably need a staff attorney. So that's where I am right now, to see if we can get both positions. You know, we have a lot of discussion to happen in the interim, but that's where I really think for you to do the job that we require of you. And it's not even an expect. It's actually required by statute for you to get this done. That it's necessary that we appropriately staff you. Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you so
And
much.
I think Kathleen McCarty has her hand up.
Physically.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Colleen, for the information. Just very quickly, of the 604 complaints that FOI receives, do you know offhand how many of those may be withdrawn rather than adjudicated? Do we have a sense of a percentage of how many may come forward and then we remove them?
Representative McCarty, I didn't provide that specific information, but I certainly can get that to you. I can, the specific number, I can tell you that typically about 1/3 get resolved through settlement. Others get resolved. They may have some defect in the complaint. They get resolved maybe even earlier on, but about 65% typically go away in that preliminary process, one way or another. But if you'd like, I can get you the exact figures for the current year.
I don't want you to go to too much work.
Okay.
The other piece of the full-time position would be roughly 106,000. Is that correct? I think you put something in your.
Yeah, that was the average. I think we were asked about what's the average cost for a full-time employee in your agency. So I think we just averaged out all of our current salaries. But the position that we asked for was administrative assistant. So it was 60,703. The range goes up to 78,533.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for that. And then finally, the IT, I know you have an interactive website. Would that be for work with the website?
Yes, absolutely. Right now, we share resources with the Office of State Ethics and the State Elections Enforcement Commission, but I think we're all a little stretched pretty thin, and our site is very alive, if you will. And so we'd like to, first of all, make that even more user-friendly. We're looking at putting a complaint online that people can use and just submit it online, or at least print it out and submit it. So we're looking at doing some, they're probably not innovative to the rest of the world, but a little bit innovative for us.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from anybody? Nope. I guess I have one position.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No.
Representative Chair, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I couldn't find the button. I had sent over my questions also, and I think I got them back. I'm not at the office right now, so I don't have them. So I just wanted to say if you did send them, thank you. And if you did not, if you could please send them. I'm looking specifically, I know a lot of people have been replying the lapse question with the basically go look at the comptroller's report. And I don't want to look at a 100-page report. So if you guys did not send your actual lapses over, if you could please send those, I would appreciate it.
We did do that, Representative. And we
Perfect.
tried to break
Thank you.
down why there was a small lapse in each of our accounts, and a little explanation of why.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Representative, look at them.
What?
I'm sorry, you broke up there, Tony. What was that?
Feels so good.
Somebody mute. Okay. Who told you to look at the comptroller's report?
Quite a few people, when they replied back on the lapses, they just put, look at the comptroller's report. It's all in there, but it's a 100-page report, and I'm not going through that to find everybody's individual lapses. Yeah.
Representative Gonzalez, you have a question, ma'am?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I got a question. Can you tell me what is the average cost of a case?
I'm not sure what do you mean by that, Representative?
Okay, let's say that you have a complaint and you're going to represent that person. What is the average of one case by when they start with the case until they finish the case?
Oh, well, that I wouldn't know, because we don't represent anybody. We hear and decide the complaints. The staff just hears and decides the complaints. So there's no billing or
There is no bill.
like that. No.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions from anybody? No? Thank you, Colleen. If you would just send us the two positions and what you think they request, that would be helpful.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Let's see, next is, okay, where am I? State Elections Enforcement, Madam Chair. Elections Enforcement, are they here?
We are here. Good
Okay.
afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Go right ahead, sir.
Okay, good afternoon, Senator Austin and Representative Walker and the ranking members. I'm Michael Brandy, the Executive Director and General Counsel for the Commission. For the subgroup, we provided our responses to Representative Nuccio's list of questions. So our lapse numbers are in the responses. The only number I can just report that we could not break apart was the cost for fringe. One of the questions was about fringe benefits, but that's the number that's been placed over with the comptroller's office, so we don't have a breakdown of that. But at this point in time, we're not asking for any additional positions or any additional monies in the budget. So we were happy with what the recommendation from the governor was. And we did get one question on the number of like a 10-year analysis of our vacancies. We've provided a kind of an Excel sheet from our HR person showing we have had 35 positions since 2012. We have not had any increases, and we're continuing to kind of refill when vacancies are occurring. And right now we have had, due to the retirements and a number of positions that transferred, there's kind of a domino effect that's occurred, because as retirements occurred, management positions opened, and we've had several of our attorneys have taken management positions in other agencies. So we're in the process of refilling all of our vacant positions. In fact, we just made offers for 2 different staff attorney positions on Friday. We're in the process of interviewing for our IT manager. We're in the latter stages of the interviews for that. And we have postings already up for an associate accounts examiner. We had some internal promotions that occurred after the retirements. And so there's kind of that domino effect also within our own staff. So we're at a position now where we're just trying to refill all of our current positions, which we were up to about 7 current positions were vacant following the retirements and the transfers. And right now I think we're at approximately 3 that are remaining.
Okay,
Happy to answer any questions regarding the budget.
are there any questions? Are there any questions? Representative Nuccio, Senator Austin, questions? No?
No, thank you, ma'am. I think I'm good.
Thank you.
Great. I guess you covered that one pretty pretty well.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we haven't asked for any additional positions. There is some legislation that is pending, mostly with the municipal program, which we've been trying to get passed for a number of years. That would be moving all the municipal filings into our eCRIS system, so that you would no longer file with the town clerks for municipal offices. You would file it with SEEK. If that does pass, we might be looking for probably 2 additional positions to assist with that process. But that legislation has not passed yet, and we're hoping this will be the year.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Very efficient. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good afternoon.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Go ahead. Secretary of State's office is at 2 o'clock. Is there any possibility that they could come on earlier? Or should we pause until 2 o'clock?
Well, I can try reaching out to see if they can come on earlier.
Let's, why don't we pause it until 2 o'clock? Kathy? Senator Austin?
That's what I think too, because it just makes sense. We can get a couple of other things done. So, thank you.
Pause until 2 o'clock. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Hi, Madam Secretary, how are you? Can you hear me? Hold on. Can you hear
I
me?
do. Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes.
Perfect.
how
Except
are
we're
you?
trying to change our camera. We're well, how are you?
Good, how are you? So, we're just going over, we asked a few questions. We didn't know if you had any answers to go over with us.
Sure, I'm gonna move this camera, so you have Chantel bars here. And yeah, we have the answers. Go ahead. Okay.
The Madam Secretary and Chantel, I have enabled screen sharing, if that's helpful to you. You have a document that you would like to share?
Yeah,
Sharing screen, do you want to share your screen, Madam Secretary?
oh, with the you mean with the answers we provided?
Yes.
That might take a minute. So why don't I work on that while we talk you through it? Sure. How's that? Okay. But I'm on a different laptop today, so it doesn't have that document, so I have to find it. Bear with.
So, good afternoon. Okay. Good afternoon, Chairwoman.
Yep.
So we'll start with the head count. So the first question was, what's our authorized head count, funded head count, and filled head count? Authorized count is 87, funded count 72, filled count is 67. Do you have any questions or comments?
Nope. Keep going.
Okay. Number 2 was regarding the changes that we were going to make, whether they were up or down in count. And those changes are positive by 2, along with some additional funds. And so the count for 2 is an FOI attorney, a staff attorney 1 position that we would like to add to the agency. So that would add to the count, along with an administrative officer in the business office. And then we were requesting $40,000 in additional personal funds to reclassify and train processing tech staff to the proper job class to produce foreign investigations.
So would that be, that 40,000, would that be in OE, office expenses? Or is that?
No,
staff?
that would be, nope. So that would be in personal services. That's to upgrade to the proper job classification
So it's not
of a licensed application analyst.
So it's not adding on to your count, it's just changing the classification of someone.
Yep, correct. So we're adding by 2 counts, 2 staffers, and then just asking for additional funds.
To upgrade 1 person or a couple?
No, to upgrade a series. I think it's about 3 or 4 people.
Okay, Representative Nuccio has a question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This is just a general question. You said you wanted to add a lawyer for FOIA. Why wouldn't your FOIA be handled under the FOIA department? Why would you need a specific one just for FOIA here?
I can
Let me
answer.
turn this over to our Chief of Staff, Gabe Rosenberg.
Yeah.
Hi, Gabe Rosenberg. I'm the Chief of Staff. I handle all our FOIA requests. The FOIA Commission handles the appeals from the department's requests, but every request that we get, our agency handles it because we're the ones that might have the documents. And the volume of those requests has increased dramatically over the last, well, I've been doing it for 5 years, but particularly over the last 2 years.
Okay, so this one is more just, you handle the initial FOIA request and then they handle the appeals if there are any.
Correct.
Okay, that helps me very much. Thank you.
Okay, next.
Any other questions or comments regarding the staffing?
No, you were at 40,000, so I think the next one is 93,000. Go ahead.
Okay, next question was, are there any vacant positions in your head count? And that is yes, and they are full-time. And they were staggered throughout the year.
Okay, keep going.
Okay. Number 4, how many vacancies did you have at year end of 6/30? We're assuming that was 6/30/2022, and that was five positions. We had those same 5 positions throughout the year, the same period, and we hired 11 staffers due to a large retirement over the last year. So we did hire 11 positions within the fiscal year. Our average salary for FTE is $94,000. Any questions or comments there?
Oh, keep going.
Okay, lapse questions. Were there any lapse accounts were any accounts lapsed on 6/30? And yes, personal services and federal funds are HAVA funds.
And HAVA stands for what?
Help America Vote Act.
Okay.
And so at that time, we had about a little over $100,000 lapse in personal services. And that was due to the delay in filling the vacancies. Along with the federal funds, there was about 3.2 million. And that is due because we are utilizing that funding for the CVRS project. And so we plan to spend that money along with as the project progresses.
Thank you. And then is that the end of what other questions did you have?
There were other questions regarding how do we propose to spend the lapse? And it, again, it's based on as the project progresses, we will spend the lapse. We also, out of that $3.2 million, we also did spend $1.1 million this year on absentee balloting grants to the towns.
Any questions? I have a couple. You had asked for an additional $2 million in carry forward dollars. What was that for?
That is for the public information campaign.
Correct. As you recall, we had a special appropriation last year. And we typically haven't had that funding historically, but it is very useful. Last year, we had a lot of changes, for example, with redistricting, but we used that money to educate people about everything from how do you register to vote to how do you find your polling place, when election day is, etc. And when we sent over some data last time with regard to what that public education campaign looked like and how many impressions we had, etc.
Okay, great. Have you looked at the replacement? We are getting towards the end of the useful life of the voting machines in the state. And
Correct.
My understanding is that you do not have, Kevin, are you back now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm asking a question now and then you can take over. We're on the Secretary of the State and she's going over her 5-page document, give or take. What is the plan to provide? Because my understanding is that there were some machines that could not be fixed because there are not spare parts to fix some of these machines. And how much would it cost for us? Shouldn't we be at the point where we're putting an RFP out for machines? Where are we on that?
Yes, you're absolutely correct. Our machines are very outdated. The company no longer makes them. The parts are not available. We've been trying to get parts on secondary markets, etc., and haven't even been successful in getting everything we need because they're even too old for the secondary market. So since I've been here over the last 8 weeks, we've had meetings with several of the companies who provide equipment. We are in the process of writing the RFP now and expect to send that out And we will be requesting bonding of 25 million to cover the costs.
So the cost would all be through bonding to purchase machines for every polling site in the state? Is that how that works?
For the actual machines, yes, exactly. There was a brief hope that there would be some federal dollars coming that might help offset that cost, but as you may or may not know, the federal government cut that budget item for aid to the states and much reduced it. And so far have said they will not be putting any additional funding out in elections for the years to come. So the bonding would cover the actual hardware costs for the actual equipment. There's usually some software licensing and that type of costs, but we don't know what it is at this time.
So the software and all of that would be included in the bonding and the initial purchase of these new machines?
The first year, correct.
All right, and how long would that RFP be? When would you be putting it out, and what would be the end date for that RFP? Is it a 30-day window? Is it a 2-month window? What is it?
It's a good question. I think we're just starting to come up with those answers now. As you probably know, there's only a handful of providers in the entire United States who are allowed to manufacture and sell election equipment. So we've had some of these early conversations just to figure out the scope of the RFP, but I'm trying to get that introduced as quickly as possible because, assuming our bonding request is successful, I would hope to have new machines online for the 2024 election.
So you don't think that they would be done for the 2023 municipal election?
I don't think so. It feels, I think because there are so few manufacturers, it's not like they have thousands of these things, hundreds sitting around. So I think even for the successful RFP bidder to provide us with the supply we need might take longer than we have, especially since we will have to train all the election workers on the new tabulators.
And how many machines do we need in Connecticut?
3,000 is the round figure.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for taking over for me. I had to step off a wee bit. Anyone else have any questions? Did you have a presentation? Were you done with your presentation, Secretary Thomas?
We are. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I'll have to catch up with that. Anybody else, any other members of the subcommittee have questions? I guess not. Well, we know where to find you if we have some more questions. I also want to give you a heads up. I represent CSG, or incoming president. We're supposed to meet with you tomorrow, but due to the weather, we're not sure if that team's coming up. I think we'll let you know further later today whether it is or not. Plus, ask you if you're going to be here tomorrow if it's bad weather. So.
Exactly, and I don't know either. So yes, keep us posted, or feel free to, we can convert to virtual if you prefer.
Okay, I'll see if that we're putting that option to. We haven't heard back, but I appreciate you taking the time to be able to meet with us, and we'll let you know what happens. One last time for anybody. Any questions? All righty. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
And our agenda says we're supposed to have an open discussion. Is there any comments that anybody wants to have? I think our next thing that we do is Taylor's still here, right? Yeah, there's Taylor. Is have a meeting to go over what we've talked about, work sessions. I'm off the top of my head, I'm not sure what the schedule. I think it's scheduled for later this week. Let me just give me 1 second.
Scheduled for.
So you're here. Okay, great.
Scheduled for your decision-making meeting on March 20th.
March 20th?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's good. We have a week. Okay, we have a week to go over materials and see if there's anything else we need. Okay, and that'll be by Zoom as well at 1 o'clock. Okay. If there's nothing else, then we'll get ready for the 20th and talk to you all then. And again, thank Senator Austin and Representative Geez, Tony, for taking my place while I had to step up.
Walker.
Walker, geez, I suddenly drew a blank. I don't know what the heck's happening.